Yeah.
Can I pour you some tea?
Absolutely. So let's welcome everybody to our second episode of After the Last Client. This is a space for honest, unfiltered conversations between therapists about what's happening for us after a long workday. And we're going to talk about the weight we hold in what's discussed and what we work through. We're also going to show up with care for one another and for the people that we hold space for. And today we are exploring what we wish people knew about coming to therapy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that lovely intro. And before we dive into everything, we did just want to share a little disclaimer that this podcast is for informational, reflective purposes, also for Melissa and I to connect with each other and reflect with each other in the community as well, and that this is not meant to be a substitute for therapy.
Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So just some quick introductions.
Yeah.
I am Melissa Reed. I am a registered social worker here in Ontario, and I am also the founder and owner here at Counselling. I provide therapy to people in the community who have experienced grief, bereavement, trauma, and I, as I know is true for you too, only see adults. So we have some amazing children's therapists here in Commentry because we do work to see all members of the family. Mm-hmm. However, you and I do stick to 18 and over.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are adults only.
Yeah. And do you want to do a quick introduction of you, Hilary?
Yes. So I am Hilary. I'm a registered psychotherapist here at Commentry. I also manage our social media and marketing here as well. And the podcast has been an exciting new addition to that. As Melissa said, I work with mainly adults as well, age 18 and up. And I do a lot of work from acceptance and commitment therapy, compassion-focused therapy, helping clients with things like anxiety, depression, life transitions, self-esteem, self-compassion, all those things. So yeah, that's me.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
So today we want to talk about what we wish people knew mm-hmm. when they were starting therapy.
Yeah.
Or before they're coming to therapy.
Yeah.
And so let's maybe open that up.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say, when we talked about doing this topic, one thing came up for me was I've recently been a new client.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, I finished working with a therapist who I'd been with for a really long time. We did amazing work together. And also I knew that we had come to a place where I wanted to go and their skill set was diverging.
Yeah.
And so it was time for me to find a new therapist. And one of the things I remember so clearly was some of the feelings of anxiety and nervousness mm-hmm. in starting with someone new.
Yeah.
And so when I saw this topic and that we were going to discuss it, definitely kind of reached into that mm-hmm. feeling of empathy and compassion when people are starting therapy, that there probably is a lot of feelings that come up before they even walk through the door.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is something almost everyone who's tried therapy or has been to therapy before can relate to. I think about my own journey with therapists and finding new therapists, and I, similar to you, had a pretty long-term relationship with the therapist, and he was lovely and helped me work through a lot of like difficult things that were going on in my life at that time. And then that kind of felt like it came to a natural end, and so I was looking for a new therapist, and I think I went through about like 3 people until I found the one that I'm with now. God bless her. She's amazing.
Shout out to our therapist.
Yes, we love you. But yeah, I think that's such a valid feeling, and again, a very relatable experience if it's so daunting to think about. And mm-hmm. there's this whole piece, right, that around we need to share a whole story, and that itself can feel like such a big and heavy task depending on what that story entails.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's overwhelming for lots of reasons.
Yeah. I just have this image of like trying to put a whole life into a moment, like an hour.
Yeah.
And the daunting was such a great word because I could feel that. So maybe we start with, what do clients not realize about the first session? Because of course we know how we're going to hold that space for the first time. But if we're thinking about our clients coming, believing like they've got this whole life, this whole story, and they're trying to bring it in and it's daunting, there's anxiety, there's nervousness, what would you want a client to know about the first session?
That it seems more scary in your head than it actually is. And that, yes, you're sitting in front of a therapist, but they're also human, and recognizing that it's not an interrogation. You know, we're not going to immediately launch into, tell me about all your trauma. It's like all the worst things that have ever happened to you. The first session is, you know, very much about just connection, right? I think is the most important thing. And also like kind of assessing fit. It's more like, if anybody should be nervous in the first session, it should be like the therapist, because it's almost like we're getting interviewed for the job would be another way to think about it. Not that we will be bringing nervous energy into the session, but I think that's a nice analogy of we're here to serve you. Like we're here to offer you this service. And so you are kind of in the driver's seat in that way of, you know, assessing what you need out of that first session. Are you feeling how you want to feel? Are you feeling connected? Are you feeling, you know, safe? Is this someone you believe you could learn to trust? You know, obviously in the first session, we're not immediately trusting, but there's usually a sense or, you know, a bit of a vibe you can get of like, yeah, this person, you know, feels safe to me or feels like they could be safe to me.
Right.
Yeah, so I think hopefully that made sense how I said that, but
it did.
Okay.
It did. What I heard was, you know, this is a space for our clients in the first session to really be evaluating whether this therapist in this session is creating a good fit for them.
Yes.
And that they're going to do that through sensing in their own body their feelings of trust and safety shifting. Like we said, it's really normal to come into this space anxious, overwhelmed, nervous, but hopefully by the end of that first session, some of those feelings have, you know, softened or given you more space to feel the potential for work with this person, this therapist. And if it's not, that can be a good space to go back and evaluate of whether potentially this person isn't a good fit. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
For some people, that really is clear in the first session.
Yeah. I think you can gauge a lot in a first therapy session, right? And I often will, a couple of things I will say to clients in first sessions is when we first start and they walk in the room and I introduce myself, I'll ask, like, is this your first time in therapy? And I find that just to be like a helpful opener, because people will either say, yes, I've been to therapy before, but a long time ago, or no, this is my first time.
Right.
So I think with either one of those, it then opens up, you know, this opportunity for me to then say like, and how are you feeling? And sometimes, most times clients will say, I feel a bit nervous. And then taking an opportunity to kind of validate that and also normalize that for people, because I think everyone feels nervous when you're meeting someone new for the first time, especially in the setting of therapy that can feel vulnerable. And yeah, I always like to say at the end of a first session with people, you know, again, a check-in of how are you feeling, and what is usually a good indicator is people say, I feel a bit lighter, right? Like there's been this almost like offloading, or, you know, they say I have a really good feeling, like, you know, I feel connected, whatever that might be. And then I always emphasize, you know, taking time to think about it before you book a follow-up. Some people know right away, which is great, but some people may also need some time. And I always like to kind of put that out there and also normalize that of like, it's okay to not know right away if this is, you know, the therapist for you.
Yeah. I want to add to this. So I have a couple thoughts, and maybe I'll start with, what do clients not realize about the first session from my perspective?
Yes.
There's a saying that we have in IFS, which is slow is fast.
I love that.
And so for clients that come in with that nervous energy and that anxiety and that overwhelmed, a lot of it is about, I have all this stuff I'm holding, all these things I want to get to and work on. Yeah. And it can feel like that first session where it's to get it all out and get it processed or get it started. And I like to really slow people down and take the time to help them land in the room. Yeah. So we'll say things like that all the time, land in the room. What that might be is kind of that mind-body connection to get them back synced with their body that's sitting in the couch, sitting with the pillows, sitting across from us, and the brain that's creating those anxious thinking patterns and beliefs around what might need to happen, to just try to help them regulate in the room.
Yeah, that's
right?
Great.
If we can get those skills in place and support them with that, we can get to the processing stuff. The other piece is it helps to create safety.
Yeah.
I don't want you to unload all this stuff to a virtual stranger right away. The vulnerability and what we call the shame hangover that can come afterwards for a client can interrupt their willingness to come back. And so I really like to take things slow and build that trust over couple of sessions in order to help that client see that I can be consistent and predictable and accountable in the room to support them. Yeah. So that's something that for me is really important. And I try to demonstrate that right from the beginning with our clients of I'm going to slow things right down for us until you're ready to take over and regulate your own nervous system effectively. Again, that's if a client is demonstrating that in the room.
Yeah, I love that. That was beautifully put.
Okay. Yeah.
And I feel the same way.
Yeah, so that's something for me that's really important.
Yeah. So maybe we'll segue into our next kind of question or topic to focus in on, which is what as therapists do we notice clients worry about, when they're thinking about coming to therapy?
So I work a lot with people who are coming in with something that has created a lot of distress in their life. They're coming with grief. And one thing I've noticed consistently is I don't want to cry.
Yeah, that's such a big one.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So, which, is the bigger conversation around the societal expectations on people, what we believe crying demonstrates about us. The vulnerability that we feel when we're expressing ourselves through tears. I find it so interesting that so many people come in with this worry. Yeah. I don't want to cry, and also don't make me cry, which is so kind of...
Yeah, or they'll say, I told myself I wasn't going to cry.
Right. And so I like people to know that we don't have a chart in our kitchen with ticks every time we've made our clients cry, and our clients have cried in our sessions. That doesn't feel like an accomplishment for us. I know I've seen some TV shows where they, make characters of therapists where they make it that, yes, I made them cry. I've been
like
successful.
It's our ultimate goal.
That is not. What I would want from my clients, which can result in crying, is for them to allow themselves to feel the feelings they have. Yeah. And allow themselves to be that vulnerable with themselves while I may be in the room and containing that space for them. I want them to be able to feel those feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you said, we don't look at a client crying as an accomplishment, something that came to mind for me is, it's a privilege for us. It is a privilege if you feel safe enough to let that emotion come out and be not only physically expressed, but emotionally expressed. A client crying is like a very vulnerable space and often shows that you do feel safety, you do feel trust with the therapist. And we, again, view that as such a privilege to be able to sit in that with you, to witness it, to hold it. We welcome it. Clients will often say to me, I'm so sorry, when you start crying, it's such an impulse, and it's so interesting, again, what you were saying about, all these beliefs we have around, what it means to cry, right? It's a sign of weakness. People are uncomfortable by it. You're not supposed to do that in front of other people. And it's such a default to say, I'm so sorry. Right. And when a client says that in session, I say to them, this is, never a space where you need to apologize for crying. It is welcome here. It is safe here. And thank you for letting me, witness this with you and hold it with you. And I think that can also be such a meaningful part of, therapeutic work is helping clients create their own sense of safety to be able to like cry with themselves or cry with other people's in their life. So yeah, I love that.
Going back to that sense of community, our hope is that in feeling that vulnerability and seeing that there isn't punishment or negativity or dismissal of those feelings associated with tears, then the hope is they do go out into their community and into their world with their friends and family and allow those feelings to be felt with other people.
Yes, absolutely.
I often also take a moment with clients to let them know, and again, there's definitely a geek out neuroscience aspect of this for me. And I try not to do too much psychoeducation, but also to say that tears are biologically a manifestation of our nervous system and our brain and our hormone systems doing what they're supposed to do, which is there's a stress hormone that's released when we cry that helps mitigate all the tension that we're holding in our bodies, and for a little time releases that tension so that we can regroup. If anyone's had a really good sob, they will know that afterwards they kind of feel like jello. Their muscles don't hold the same tension, their bones don't feel as firm as they were, and that's that hormone that gets released with our tears. So there is also a biological necessity for tears, that when we try to avoid it, we're taking away that anti-stress hormone from our bodies, which our bodies so desperately need.
Everybody needs a good cry.
Absolutely. So what do you notice that clients worry about?
A big thing that comes up for me and that I've seen a lot in clients, especially, you know, in a first session or even across like the first few sessions, is this idea that their stuff isn't big enough. Right? That like they are not struggling enough, you know, other people need this more. I'm taking up space in therapy that someone else could be using. Just this whole narrative of like, I don't deserve to be here, or I shouldn't be here. And I think that can be rooted in so many different things. I think, again, like this societal, unfortunately, like the societal shame that can come from the idea of coming to therapy, and that this belief system that things have to be so bad in order for you to go to therapy, and you must be really struggling, or you have a clinical diagnosis, or whatever it might be, right? So when people come like to therapy, whether it's for the first time or whenever, I do find that that's a theme that often comes up, is like, again, my stuff is not big enough. And something I'll often say to clients in response to that is, there is no threshold that you need to meet in order to be here and take up space. It's not a competition. We are not, you know, lining our clients up and measuring like whose stuff is worse. Therapy is a space that is meant for everyone from all walks of life, struggling with whatever it might be. It doesn't matter what the thing is, it matters the impact that it's having on you. And again, going back to this idea of like, therapy is a really vulnerable space to be. So I always try to look at it from the lens of, if you're bringing yourself to therapy, there's a part somewhere in you that knows like, I need support, I need help, you know, I can't do this on my own. And so just having that be enough, like that is enough for you to be in therapy. And again, like recognizing everyone gets something different out of therapy.
Absolutely.
So I'd say that's a really big thing that I notice clients worry about, is like, am I struggling enough to be here? And the simple answer is, you are.
And what a courageous act, right?
Absolutely.
To do something when our system is telling us that we're not enough, to then have that part of us that still walks us through the door. So amazing.
It's, Brene Brown has that quote, right, of vulnerability is the most courageous thing you can do. Right?
Absolutely. Okay.
So our next, and I guess final talking point on this is, what do we wish people knew before coming into therapy?
Such a great question. This is definitely a bit of a stalling tactic.
We're thinking, we're calibrating.
That's right. Calibrating. What do you wish people knew before coming in? That what they're experiencing is human. I think often about, you know, compassion and self-compassion. And Kristen Neff beautifully lays this out. She's a researcher as well as a clinician. And she talks about self-compassion being made up of 3 components. One is self-kindness. One is understanding that there is a common humanity to everything we experience. And the last one is mindfulness. And when we have all 3, we can experience self-compassion.
Yeah.
And until then, understanding that this space holds people in compassion. So we come from this perspective of being mindful of who you are, what you might need, of the space and the time that we're holding with you. We come from a place of kindness, and we differentiate that from being nice. So you may have people in your life who are nice. We are going to be kind, which means we might say the hard things.
Yeah.
And then we are going to come from a place of common humanity, which is we know, because we sit in front of so many different people, that there's so much commonality in our struggles.
Yeah.
And so that's what I wish people knew, is that that's the space that you're going to be held in.
Yeah.
This compassionate space where those things are true.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I think for me, something I wish people knew before coming in is that therapy is collaborative. I think sometimes there's this belief system of like, you know, yes, we're the professional and like the expert and we have the training and the education, and that we're just gonna like psychoanalyze you and like tell you what to do in your life. The reality is like we're actually not supposed to give you advice. It's like in our code of ethics not to do that. But our job as a therapist is more to be a helper, a guider, right? That kind of helps you think through things, gives you a different perspective, you know, process things, right? In a way you might not be able to do with other people in your life. And so something I'll often say to clients also in the first session is, you know, while I am the professional, you're the expert in your own life. You know what you need best, even if you can't access it right now. It is in there somewhere, and you know what you respond to best as well. So I always kind of emphasize this idea that this is collaborative. We work together. Clients have a lot of autonomy and direction, and sometimes even independence in a session. And that you're allowed to bring things to this space. Like as much as your therapist will bring things into the session, you can also bring things in, you know?
Absolutely.
Did you read a book? Did you listen to a podcast? Did you see a TikTok or an Instagram? You're like, this sparked a thought for me, right? Bring it in, right? So kind of this idea that you can invite all those different aspects and experiences of your life into therapy, and your therapist is gonna kind of meet you where you're at with that.
Yeah. And I think it might be helpful to synthesize that whole piece around the code of ethics, which is the reason we don't give advice is because you're the expert in your life. And our advice would come from our own perspective, bias, and belief system, motivated by how we live our lives. So it is why it is tantamount. And for us, the way that it's said in social work would be that we have to optimize self-determination. And the people that have their values oriented in how they live their lives. So that's beautifully put, and I think that's really important for people to keep in mind when they're coming into therapy. It's about supporting you through the strategies and tools, as well as what you bring, that we can explore and digest and look into.
Absolutely. We're not going to tell you to break up with someone or quit your job or any of those things.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So tell me, Hilary, what has been one glimmer from this past week and one edge?
Oh, I always find these questions so overwhelming.
Fair.
Maybe it's because I'm not checking in with myself regularly enough, but this is good practice for me. A glimmer from, I guess we should say, clarification, a glimmer is something we found to be like grounding, connecting, meaningful, positive in our week. And then we're also going to do an edge, which was something that was challenging, or also something that might still be sitting with us or like weighing on our system. A glimmer. I had a really great long weekend. It was the May 2 for a long weekend here this past weekend, and I got to go up to my fiance's family cottage, which is a beautiful space, and The whole family was there. They have a great big family. They love each other. It is a very nice environment to be around. So I really enjoyed my time there. It's right on the water. We saw a beautiful sunset, and the whole family was together, laughing, having a good time, good food. So yeah, that was a really nice Glimmer that I enjoyed. An Edge. I would say on a more personal front, my Nana is not doing well. And so, yeah, just navigating all the feelings that come with that, and, seeing her, struggle with getting older and the limitations of her body, as well as illness and how that can impact you. But also seeing how it's impacting other members of my family. I see my mom, who is, such an amazing caretaker and loves with her whole heart. And I also see all the feelings that she's holding and how hard she's working right now to keep it together. And so, just showing up for her as I can, holding space for her, and feeling my own feelings of sadness that come with that. So that's definitely been an edge and something that I'm sitting with and trying to give myself care and compassion with as well.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. What about you? A Glimmer and an Edge?
Yeah, so for me, a Glimmer, similarly, we had a gorgeous long weekend this weekend, and we bought a new house in this past year.
Yep.
And one of the reasons we wanted one was for a pool.
Yeah.
So I got to watch my kiddo be in the pool almost like she lived in it.
Yeah, she's a mermaid.
Yes. So just to see that joy and feel the gratitude for this space that we've created, and been so intentional about getting, felt really awesome this weekend. And I will say too, I think here in Ontario, we all were just craving that sunshine.
Oh, the vitamin D.
Yes. So I was just so appreciative of being outside and being comfortable outside was awesome. An edge would be, with this weird weather comes migraines for me, and learning, it's a continuous learning for me to feel comfortable to take care of myself. For people that suffer with any sort of chronic health or chronic illness, that it's hard to gauge whether this is the worst day or not. Yeah. And so wanting to potentially not take the day if it's not the worst day, and that the worst days are yet to come. Yeah. But also understanding that prioritizing your well-being and your care is something that you'll benefit from. That for me is kind of a continuous learning. Yeah. And something that I imagine I will be following me my whole life long.
Yes, and I'm sure there's lots of people out there that can relate to that experience.
Absolutely.
As well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Hilary, do you want to tell people where they can find us if they want to know more about Commentary or After the Last Client, our podcast?
Yes. We're all over the place, all the socials. We have our super helpful website, which is commentary.ca or commentary.counselling.ca. Both variations will take you to us. We are on Instagram at Commentary Counselling, as well as Facebook. And then After the Last Client is on TikTok, and I believe that is our handle. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and that is under After the Last Client. All of that is also linked on our website, as well as in the bio of our Instagram page. You can hit the link that will then bring you to all the podcast platforms to watch us and listen to us.
Absolutely. And just a little plug for us here at Commentary Counselling and Psychotherapy. We are in the Kitchener-Waterloo area in Southern Ontario. We have counselors here, therapists who provide counseling to everyone in the family, from kiddos as young as 4, and I always like to say up to infinity.
Yes.
And we have people who provide relationship counseling, and individual and teen and youth therapy as well. Yeah. And we have right now about 14 therapists, mostly registered social workers. We also have registered psychotherapists working with us here as well. So that's just a little bit to know about Commentary Counselling. So let's sign off.
Yeah, absolutely. Take it away with your trademark.
Well, what I say to all my clients and my clinicians here at work, it's take good care.
Thanks, everyone.